welcome back. My name is Emory. Thank you for joining me. Today I want to go over backpacking stoves. So I have 3 stoves here with me. They represent 3 different columns or categories of stoves. So the purpose of this video is to help you navigate how to select a stove for purchase. Let's go into this. I have extensive experience with the Jetboil FLASH, the MSR Reactor, and a little bit of experience so far with the Snow Peak Lite Max with Trek 700 pot. Let's get into it. Before we go into talking about how to choose the stove, I just want to put a disclaimer out there. All 3 of these options or styles of options are awesome choices. If you're just doing average backpacking, you're not doing any crazy mountaineering, these stoves or stoves like this, at the end of the day, they're all going to get the job done. So some of them can boil water and snow. Some of them can just boil water, or they're told to just boil water. All of them will get the job done. That is the point. I'm going to go in the order in which I purchased the stoves. This is the MSR Reactor. Let's go over the types of features on this stove to help you make the right choice for you. This pot and stove is made by MSR, great company. So instead of an open flame, this is a burner, and this basically just gets really, really hot and it boils the water very fast. The benefit of it is that it doesn't have an open flame, so it's very resistant to the wind. It'll boil water very, very fast. It comes with a pot. You can swap the different pots around. So I have a 1.5 liter that I started out with, realized it was huge, and so I purchased this 1 liter pot. This was probably the best idea I ever had, because I thought when I first purchased it that I needed this huge pot. It comes in I think they have a 2 liter, a 1.5 liter, and a 1 liter. I got the 1 liter. That's really cool because you have the same burner and a bunch of different pot options. So that's really cool. And it just basically sits on here like this. So as you can hear, it's kind of rattling around. There's nothing to keep it onto the pot. So that's the bottom of it. There's nothing to keep it on, but it sits on there really nicely, so you can it's nice and stable. This is the lid. It has a strainer, got this little rubber thing on the top, and it just sits on top of there. And the pot holder is this, it's like a stem, right? My problem with this is that sometimes if this gets really, really heavy, this will pop off of this little joint right here. So I'm not a huge fan of that, and when that happens, it's very, very annoying. It's a great pot, it's titanium, and then it's got this little pour spout right there. To turn the gas on, you turn this little, you can hear it, you can turn that little guy, but the thing is, with this, you must have a lighter. So, and it's nice. So that is the MSR Reactor, and that's already really, really hot. Again, it's a burner, right? It takes gas, and it's a great pot. I thought this was everything I ever wanted. One additional feature: when you go to pack this thing up, everything fits inside. You fold this guy over, and this little, you can already see it, this little wire keeps it shut. It comes off very, very easily, and it's very, very annoying. But nonetheless, it's a great stove. It boils water crazy, crazy fast. And the great thing about this one, if you're looking for a stove that can boil snow, there's no risk to damaging the pot or the burner or whatever when you're trying to melt snow into water. So let's move on to Jetboil. Okay, so this is the Jetboil FLASH. This is a 1 liter pot. I used this for the entire length of the Pacific Crest Trail, so 5 months of backpacking. I will admit I had a bad attitude about the Jetboil because I heard rumors about how the company didn't support hunting, and I'm a hunter, and I thought that was kind of messed up. And it kind of just looks, it doesn't look as cool, right? They come in a bunch of different colors. The other thing is that these fins don't support, the way it's constructed, you can kind of see these fins in there. You're not supposed to melt snow. So I thought that was kind of dumb, but let me put this together and we'll talk more about it. Let's go over the features. So again, gas canister, The small one fits inside, and actually what I found, you actually don't have to assemble it. You can kind of, I'll show you in a second. You have a burner, you have gas release or whatever, knob, whatever, and then the pot sits on top, and it locks into place. So there's these little, see that little hole right there? Indent. It kind of fits inside that groove. You line it up, and you twist it, and it's, look at this. This does not come apart. You can shake it all you want. So one big unit. It's actually pretty cool. In fact, this is why I really love this stove. It's got a thermal sleeve on it, so when this gets really hot, you just put your hand through this guy and you can pour it. This lid comes with it, and it has a pour spout, and you just toss it over and you pour out your water or take it off, whatever. I just end up pouring my water through it. What's really cool about this one is that the Jetboil FLASH has these little flames right here, and as it boils, this heats up and it gets orange and orange, 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 and then all of a sudden you're boiling. So that is an indicator of boil time. Also, the awesome thing about this one is it has an integrated lighter. So this button right here, you're gonna hear that. So there you go. It's important to note that this has an open flame. You can see it, and you can see it in there when I lit the stove. That's the burner. There's nothing blocking the wind on this. So if you are concerned, if you're one that is concerned about wind, what I found is that's not really a big issue. Normally you have a shelter on you. Normally there's a rock or a tree or something where the wind is not blowing so hard that it's blowing. Like, I don't understand how, unless you're like a mountaineer and you're cooking your meal on the edge of a cliff in the middle of a windstorm, you might have some problems. Otherwise, most people, if it's really windy out, you're in a shelter anyhow, right? So I don't see the exposed flame being a problem anymore. Whereas with when I was using the reactor, I thought, oh yeah, this is super protected by the wind. At the end of the day, I hiked 5 months in it and never had a problem. What I really love about this stove is that it locks into place. This is really awesome. And you'll see on my next stove how the opposite end of the spectrum is, you know, the reactor, it's stable. The next stove is really unstable. And this one, you can grab it and move it as you need it. In the event you have an emergency, you need to get up really fast, you need to move it, whatever it might be. I'm telling you, that comes in really, really handy. So that is the Jetboil. The downside, you can't melt snow in this. There are some tricks to that. You can, I can do a video on that if you want, but it wouldn't be a very long video, I guess. I'm told, and it's on the Jetboil website, these fins can break when they get too hot, I guess. So when the stove's working too long, it has a hard time, and it can break these fins on the stove. So you're not supposed to melt snow when using a Jetboil. Boils water very, very fast. I just open the valve all the way, crank it, and then it goes really, really fast. When I first started using it, I was just barely cracking that valve, and it took forever for it to boil. I was like, this is terrible, this is awful. And then someone's like, dude, just open that thing all the way. I did. This thing is extremely efficient. I saw people boiling water at night only, and maybe some coffee, and they were lasting an entire month on a small canister. One thing I really like about this design, I found this about halfway through the trip of the PCT. I don't like assembling things at night. I just don't. But what's cool, boom, done. So everything's contained. You pull this thing out, done, ready to go. Lock it into place, you get the idea. I will say at higher altitude, I was camped around 10,000 feet at one point. It took a lot longer for it to boil, and the flame seemed very, very weak. Also, it was very cold, so I don't really know if that had anything to do with it, but I would imagine the altitude had a hindrance. So, but if you're just backpacking at normal altitudes, even at 10,000 feet, it'll still work. But if you're just going out for a summer backpacking trip, this stove will do everything you need it to do. The point is, this is a really hard to beat unit. It's super fast, it boils water really, really fast. And yeah, so let's go on to the next step. So why did Emory get a smaller unit? Well, look at this. So size-wise, this is much lighter. I was looking for it to save space. And if you compare that to this, again, It's a lot. Yeah. In all respects, this is a much smaller unit. This is a Snow Peak Lite Max inside here with a Trek 700 pot. You'll notice the lid is different. This is actually a Jetboil lid because the lid that comes on the Trek, the Snow Peak Trek, sucks really, really bad. And it just so happens that the 1 liter flash lid fits perfectly on this. And it works. I picked up a couple of them for like $5 and it's awesome. So the reason why I wanted this, and a lot of us are in the same position, you want to go lighter, faster, more maneuverable, takes up less space, you can get a smaller bag, and it's just super streamlined, right? This kind of is, it can be a coffee cup, that's pretty cool, and everything fits inside this thing. So this is very lightweight, but it's very minimalist, and I wanted to give the minimalist thing a try. What's cool about this one, you can stick this in a fire, so if you don't have fuel, you can stick it in a fire and warm it up. Unlike, probably don't want to do it with this one. You could probably get away with sticking this in a fire if you needed to, but this, for sure, you can just stick it on a fire. I thought that was pretty cool. So let's get into it. So that's the lid. I keep a little lighter in here. This is the Lite Max stove. I keep a little rag, always, as you can see, and a small canister. And yeah, we'll just open this guy up. So that is it, right? Okay, so you take these arms out and boom. So as you can see, very, very small. The features of this thing, you have a stove, you have your burner, it's completely open to the wind, and you put whatever pot you want. It doesn't have to be the Trek 700, it can be a completely different pot. But the point is, you can swap whatever pot you want. You can big one, small one, pan, whatever the heck you want. I'm just boiling water, so if you are in the market for something like this, very streamlined, you're gonna need a lighter. They do make one, Snow Peak makes a stove like this that has a integrated lighter, which I think is probably a good idea. That's the burner. That is the burner. So the flame is very big. It sounds like a jet engine when it gets going, and it boils water slowly, as you can imagine. It's an open flame. There's really nothing fancy to this thing. So what have I found? First things that come to mind when I first started using this thing is the stability of this stove is terrible. I'm always concerned I'm gonna knock it over, so I have to make sure that this is flat and secure, and then I have to make sure these arms are out, and I set this on here just right, and then nothing touches it. If you've ever camped with dogs or people or kids, that's a problem, right? That's not going to be very fun to deal with. So when this thing is done and boiling, I was concerned that these things were going to get very, very hot, and they do if they're not fully outstretched like this, but I actually grabbed it one time recently and it burned my hand. So if it's off this deal, if it's off to the side, that flame is gonna come up and touch that titanium hoop and make it really hot. But as you can see, this thing is like, see how that's swinging out? So you're boiling your water, you're doing your thing, and then this thing does that. Now you have to go in here and grab it, and this is hot, there's an open flame. And then you gotta go in here and pinch your fingers together and kind of grab it really fast. My point here is that the whole thing is very unstable. I actually don't know if I like it. It's very small, it's lightweight and compact. It's a great little stove. It boils water, you can boil snow in it, melt snow in it. It's not very efficient with fuel, which kind of sucks because these things, you just don't want to carry more fuel than you have to. So if you're burning a lot of fuel, making coffee, making meals, and you're backpacking and you're trying to cut weight, but then you have to bring a larger stove, you could just get like a Jetboil and have just as much weight, most likely, get closer to that. It just takes a little more space. So that is the downside to this guy, is it's very unstable, and I don't really like that. If you are looking for a backpacking stove and you're kind of leaning towards this style, I would just take that into account. It does have a slower burn time, but you're gaining size. The awesome thing about this combination is how small it is. Weight aside, it fits inside this little guy right here. And you saw when I compared it a second ago that they're just tiny. It doesn't take up hardly any space at all. I think that's really awesome. So if you're looking to make your pack really, really small, or you just want to toss this thing in your day pack and you want to have some coffee and you don't want to bring a big stove, this thing is freaking perfect. Where I land on this, I don't think that when I'm on a long expedition or like 10 days and I'm tired and I'm like putting this thing together and I gotta find a nice spot for it, and then my buddy comes over and knocks over my meal, or I knock over my own meal, man, that's really gonna make me angry. So I don't think that this is something that I would take on a long trip. After using it, I go back and forth on it. If weight savings is very, very big to you, awesome, and you don't mind the instability, then this is a really great option, or an option very similar to this. There's MSR makes one like this. There's other brands that make them like this. So, all right. As I went through the stoves, you kind of noticed that I talked about efficiency, size, portability, that kind of thing. Those are all very important. Again, all of those stoves and stoves like this, they're all gonna be great. They're all gonna boil water. They're all gonna get you what you need. It depends on what you're going to use your stove for. Are you cooking it? This guy simmers. This guy does not simmer. This guy's on basically full blast, there's no simmer. So if you wanna go into the backcountry and simmer food and cook and do that kind of thing, you're gonna want a stove that you can adjust that flame on. If you're just boiling water, you don't really need to adjust the flame. That's just as pointless. So you want just boil water, bam, get it over with. Me personally, coffee and a dehydrated meal or freeze-dried meal, that's it. That's all I really want. Maybe boil water, clean water, whatever, that kind of thing. But essentially all I'm doing is boiling water. Durability, they're all durable. Function-wise, I think that the Jetboil is probably the most functional. The reason being how it locks into place. Man, it's really hard to beat. I've seen people boil water while they're walking down the trail and making coffee. That's pretty incredible. You can't do that. So, and not that I would, but this thing is just so flexible. I mean, you can set it and forget it, wait till it boils, grab it, pour it out, turn it off, be done with it. That's incredible. And when you're super tired, you don't want to knock it over. It's just a really durable, sturdy thing. Yes, it's a little bit taller, but I've never had a problem with that. So one thing I want to mention about Jetboil, some people that are hunters are probably screaming about this. Supposedly Jetboil, and it's all hearsay and rumor, they don't support backcountry hunters. If that is a problem for you, all I can say is, well, there's literally nothing out there saying that they don't support hunting, but you will find people that they don't respond to hunting shows or hunting people. They basically go dark. So is that a problem with a brand? I guess if that's super, super important to you, then maybe that goes into your purchase. However, my only thought to that is I would imagine they may not support hunting, but they may support public lands and people going in the outdoors. And to me, not every brand has to support hunting. Not every brand has to like everything that I do. All I care is that it's a good brand and a good product and that they're not jerks. I'm not gonna not buy a product because they don't have the same exact values as me. But then again, everyone to each their own. If Jetboil ever came out and said horrendous things about the hunting community, then yeah, but I've done my research. I've tried to get a hold of them, tried to find something online saying that they don't like hunters, and there's basically nothing out there. So I want to know what your thoughts are on stoves. Hopefully this video was beneficial. I'm always curious to learn what people are using and how they're using it and what's important to them when it comes to backcountry stoves. This whole thing's very fascinating. Oh, bonus round. This serves as a torch. I saw my buddy light a fire with this thing. That's pretty cool. In fact, I actually lit a fire with this one. I needed to draw out some wood and my lighter wasn't working very well, so I just torched some twigs like that. We'll see you next time. Hopefully this video is beneficial, helping you sort some stuff out. Again, what you have to decide is what are you going to use your stove for? And then make your decision. Is size an issue? Is portability an issue? Is simmering an issue? Are you just gonna be boiling water? Are you going to cook in it? 2 packets of top ramen in this, probably not a whole lot in this. So yeah, thanks again. We'll see you next time. Until then, be safe out there and yeah.